Well, welcome back again this week. This time we're going to talk about how the Jacobins came to America. Last week we hit briefly on the Jacobin movement in France, which led to the Reign of Terror and then a strongman government under Napoleon. This week we begin to look at the movement imported into the United States from France. As we do, we want to make something abundantly clear. The success of the Jacobin movement in America was due to the preparation of the political stage by the Illuminati and their minions. No large-scale political movement succeeds unless the base is created for that success. This seems to be one of the principles of politics that eludes most people. The groundwork is done beforehand through massive education or propaganda. This came by way of several illuminated lodges, societies, and false religious organizations established by Americans out of Germany, but particularly France. The Gallo-American Society from France, established by Jacques-Pierre Brissot, helped introduce Illuminati goals in America, as well as the philanthropist churches introduced by Thomas Paine. Those Americans who did this, some of you will recognize and some you won't. Of those you do recognize, you'll be very disappointed to learn of their involvement. We will spend at least 3 weeks on this segment of conspiratorial history. Keep in mind that due to time constraints, we will not be telling the whole story, which is contained in our book, To the Victor Go the Myths and Monuments. Perhaps now is the time to point out the subtitle of the book, The History of the First 100 Years of the War Against God and the Constitution, from 1776 to 1876, and its modern impact. We have to remember constantly that the goal of the Illuminati and its offspring has 2 goals: the elimination of God and the establishment of a one-world government, which they call the New World Order. From the very beginning of our country, this has manifested itself in America by attacking religion and the Constitution. It is difficult to understand those who want to eliminate God, and their actions and beliefs can be rather bizarre and hard to believe. At the time, it was the American Democratic clubs that was used as the front for the Jacobins. Already by the late 1700s, this organization would foment and lead opposition to George Washington and the Constitution, particularly after it was ratified. Many good people were caught up in the debates. Ironically, it was those who wanted less power vested in the American government. These individuals were unfortunately the dupes of the Jacobins. However, keep in mind that in order to be successful in America, the Illuminists had to work both sides, which meant it was the so-called Republican Democrats versus the Federalist political parties. To better understand the influence of the Jacobins, let's focus a bit on the Democratic clubs. When they were initially formed, a political party they referred to they formed was the Republican Party. Then it became the Republican Democrat Party. This was done to fool Americans into thinking that the Republican Party stood for a true republic. Within a few years, they moved their adherents into supporting democracy, which included their name change from Republican to Republican Democrat to finally simply Democrat. The Democratic clubs also stirred up the populace into armed rebellions to promote the French revolutionary plans in America over real or imaginary issues. The intent was to bring the United States into the international revolution controlled by France. During the same time of 1792, the first Jacobin Club was formed in the capital city of Philadelphia. They grew to about 42 groups throughout the country. Now, that might not seem like much, but consider that the country was very small at the time. The Jacobins were partisans for revolutionary France and called themselves citizens, singing La Marseillaise, calling themselves Republicans, even though their clubs were called Democratic. Again, this was a move to change our system from a republic to a democracy by confusing the 2 terms. The purpose of the Jacobins was either to bring America into the French revolutionary orbit as part of the International Revolution, or to break off the western portion of the United States, including the Mississippi Valley, as French territory. Now, Washington criticized the Democratic clubs in a letter to John Jay. He wrote, quoting, that the self-created societies who have spread themselves over this country have been laboring incessantly to sow the seeds of distrust, jealousy, and of course, discontent, hoping thereby to effect some revolution in the government, is not known to you. That they have been the fomenters of the Western disturbances admits of no doubt in the mind of anyone who will examine their conduct. Washington wrote several times that he was convinced that the democratic societies and the Jacobins came out of the Illuminati. As one example to a minister, Washington wrote this: "It was not my intention to doubt that the doctrine of the Illuminati and the principles of Jacobinism had not spread to the United States. On the contrary, no one is more satisfied of this fact than I am." Washington went on to say that he doubted that there was a separation between the Illuminati and the Jacobins. The United States Senate, in its reply to Washington's speech at the opening of Congress, November 19, 1794, also referred to secret societies fomenting insurrection. Yet both Jefferson and Madison criticized Washington for his opposition to the Jacobins and became part of the Republican Party. Understanding the effect of a stirred-up populace and how it helps create the condition for revolt, the Whiskey Rebellion played a major part in the Jacobin strategy. Now, quoting from the New York Senate report of 1920, Revolutionary Radicalism, we have this: "As an illustration of the effect of European movements upon the United States, we make reference to the influence which the Jacobin clubs of the French Revolution had upon the malcontents in the United States in the latter part of the 18th century. The Whiskey Rebellion of Western Pennsylvania was the outgrowth of agitation carried on by so-called democratic societies, acting under the guise of protectors of civil liberties, which received their inspiration from the French revolutionary societies." Also, Noah Webster, early American educator and the creator of the first American dictionary, stated that the democratic clubs formed, quote, "a league of societies disciplined to the orders of chiefs, whose views were concealed even from the members themselves, and which must be crushed in its infancy, or it will certainly crush the government." So we see through the words of Washington and others that the democratic clubs constituted a conspiracy to overthrow the government and seize the western portion of the United States away from the hands, into the hands of the French Revolution. Also, according to Noah Webster, that the followers of the movement had no idea of the forces that controlled them and the direction they were being led. As you can see, this is a standard problem within all of the movements we are discussing. There is the open movement, which is led by people behind the scenes who do not necessarily have the same motivation as their dupes. Early Americans did not look at conspiracy as a theory, but a fact. John Jay, who became the first Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, was the head of the New York Committee for Detecting and Defeating Conspiracies. This committee was in the genre of the 20th century investigating committees of Congress trying to ferret out subversive activities by the communists. Now, getting back to the Whiskey Rebellion, Washington finally lost his patience with the rebellion in the West after the takeover of Pittsburgh, and ordered state militias under federal command to march into western Pennsylvania, where they put down the rebellion. When they marched into Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, they found the French flag flying over the courthouse. Now, one of the least reported aspects of the Whiskey Rebellion was the effort to suppress the clergy, as the French had done. The French had not only eliminated Catholic clergy, but Protestant ministers as well. By eliminate, I mean the guillotine. The Whiskey Rebellion never went to the extent of the French Revolution, but the seed had been sown. More next week.